So we're setting the table for fall 21, and one of the things that was often left behind on my list was the development of a strategy that really looked at international recruiting. Now this is a big one, right? There's a lot of legs, there's a lot of politics, no pun intended. There's a lot of things to think about. But there's also good news, right? We've all been under the impression, and we've seen firsthand, international enrollment shrink over the last few years. And according to some statistics that I've been reading, it might look, there are signs of plateauing on that level. And it looks like the decreases that we've seen potentially in international enrollment, especially for first-year students, are starting to slow down, thus opening up new markets and more students internationally thinking about a domestic education experience. And if I know you, and I know your president, which this is like maybe a lot of presidents around the United States of colleges, we all want to have a better international profile. More international students is just usually better. So here are a few things that I think would be good things to look at as you're trying to develop an international strategy. First of all, let's start by recognizing that it's not going to happen overnight. International strategies take time and they take study. And hopefully you won't adopt the old approach of putting up a global map on the wall and throwing a dart and saying, hey, yeah, let's develop a strategy there to go after that market. Let's be strategic. Let's look at some numbers and some population movements that maybe help us to narrow the field of which areas are going to be the most fruitful. And obviously this is going to overlay with your programs that you offer at your institution, or maybe some of the unique nuance of your institution. But it never hurts to understand what countries are sending the most students to the United States. One really recent, really good study that I would recommend is called the Open Door Fast Facts of 2019. And I'll include a link on our website for that report. But it shows some very interesting movement about countries that have sent fewer students and those that have sent more, and it's really worth taking a look at as you think about your strategy. Now there are other factors, right? Sometimes you have particular alumni that are in an area of the world, or you have a particular focus that a power broker on your campus wants to go to. Like, those are all things that need to be considered. But make sure that you're thinking of the full view as you develop your strategy. As you're thinking about where to target, one thing that you also should think about is, what is the date that you have in mind? When do you want these applications to be at least started and in the hands of those staff members on your team? Using that information, work backwards. Figure out how long it's going to take to get some of that processing, and how long is it going to take to get some of that visa paperwork. Because what is maybe worse than anything is developing a market and then not having time enough to finish the paperwork that's needed to get those students through those international processes in order to get them on your campus. And the last thing is, make sure that you continue to listen to the pulse. There's an obvious mix of program and population across the globe that should mesh. If you're an institution that has lots of STEM majors, then you're going to look for countries that have students that are very interested in STEM programs. And I think that the resources are out there, but it just takes time to look at those. As you look at both programs and timing and some of the initiatives that may be on campus that are feeding international programs, the last thing that you should also consider is, how is your website a tool? Thinking of the international student experience, one of the things that's critical is to have correct, easy to find website information. And on the flip side of that, using that information to understand who those consumers are is a great thing. Capture employs a methodology where we actually track students and understand where they're coming to your website from. This can be an incredibly budget responsible tool for finding new international markets without doing a huge amount of investment. And this isn't a sales pitch, but in reality, there are a lot of institutions that don't have the adequate resources that are applied toward international market development. This can be a way to understand that more and to use those resources. Remember, take your time, do the research, understand where these students are coming from, what they want to study, and how you meet the need that they are trying to fulfill. At the end of the day, this is going to be a great market, and I think that we're about to see some growth that we've all been waiting for. So happy planning.